You can become extraordinary. I know you'll set the world on fire. Keep chasing your dream.
Hi, and welcome back to Ordinarily Extraordinary Conversations with Women in STEM. I am absolutely thrilled today to have Kristen Lear, actually, I should say Dr. Kristen Lear on the podcast today. I'm going to let her introduce herself and talk about her bio before we get into questions. So thank you, Kristen, for joining us. So happy to have you here. And I'm seriously, just absolutely delighted to talk to you.
I'm excited to be here. I love to chat about bats. I could talk about bats all day. Yeah, I can give a brief kind of intro. So I am a bat conservationist, which means I work around the world to study and protect bats from extinction. I am currently working at the nonprofit Bat Conservation International as the director of our Agave Restoration Initiative. So I lead our binational agave initiative to restore these important agave plants for threatened pollinating bats and to support local livelihoods. So I have been at BCI for a little over 5 years now and have been studying and working with bats since I was an undergrad. So it's been over 15 years getting to learn about bats and work to protect them.
Okay, and your undergrad degree is in zoology, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
What is your PhD in? Because I know you're a bat scientist. I'm like, is there like a ologist that goes with a bat scientist?
Yeah, I mean, kind of, but it's more. So I studied zoology as an undergrad, which is the study of animals, basically. And as part of that, I started learning about bats. And then in grad school for my PhD, I got a PhD in integrative conservation and forestry and natural resources. So basically the conservation aspect of bat conservation. There are bat labs out there who focus specifically on, various aspects of bat biology and bat ecology, but I went a little more broad so that I could learn more of the conservation aspect and apply it to bat conservation.
Okay, so you started in zoology, and what got you interested in bats? And was it something you were interested in as a kid, or was it as you were getting into zoology that you started getting interested, or what got you interested in that?
So I loved bats since I was a kid. I have always rooted for the underdog. I really think bats are one of those kind of misunderstood creatures like spiders and rats and snakes. Bats fall into that category, and I've always been drawn to those kind of more misunderstood animals. And so as a kid, I grew up in Girl Scouts. I'm a lifetime member of Girl Scouts, and we would take night hikes during the summer, and we would see bats, flitting around in the evening above our heads, hunting for insects. And at that point, I didn't really know much about bats. I was, 10, 12, but I started to look more into them, started to read about them. And so in 6th grade for my Girl Scout Silver Award project, I built bat houses to help, my own local hometown bats. And that's when I realized bats are in need of help. But, 12-year-old me didn't really know that you could make a whole career out of working with bats. I thought that was just
54-year-old me did not know that you could make a career out of bats.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, growing up, I heard about, wildlife biologists or conservationists who worked with gorillas or chimpanzees or wolves or dolphins, the big charismatic animals. And you didn't hear about, bats as one of those things that you could work with. So, as a kid, I carried that interest forward and, I read about bats, but didn't really know I could do anything with that. And then in college, as an undergrad, as a zoology major, we actually had a seminar class, my first year of college, where it was a seminar class all about bats. That was the title, Bats. And we got to kind of self-direct the students. We got to pick the research papers that we read. We got to pick what we wanted to learn about bats. And that's when I discovered, wow, there's a whole field out there researching and working with bats. And that ever since then, it's been a passion, and got to get some hands-on experience as an undergrad doing that research in Texas as an undergrad field assistant. And that's when I fell in love with it ever since then.
So now I'm curious about Girl Scouts. Yes. You said that you built bat houses for Girl Scouts. And I was a Girl Scout leader for many years when my daughter went to Girl Scouts.
Awesome.
And I'm picturing a bat badge.
Yes.
Is there a bat badge in
Yes.
Girl Scouts?
So not at the national level, but there are several from different councils throughout the country. And I actually worked with my hometown council, the Girl Scouts of Western Ohio, to develop a bat patch program where the girls could do these activities and earn this batty patch.
I love that. Yes, patch. Thank you for
Well,
correcting
there's
me.
badges
They're
and
patches.
patches are different. But
Yeah, no, that's great.
yeah.
I love
And so
it.
that's, I love.
I want one
Well,
now.
I'll have to hook you up. They're pretty cute. Yeah. But yeah, definitely just Google, Girl Scout bat patch or badge, and you'll find stuff.
I will.
Mhm.
That's great.
Yeah. Yep.
Good
is
information.
it bat shaped?
It is. It's got,
Or is it a bat?
it has a little
okay.
bat on it. It's really cute. Yeah. Go batty.
I
Yeah.
love that.
It's pretty cute.
Love that.
Nice. I was also a Girl Scout troop leader for my daughter.
Yeah.
I
love
was,
it.
but we didn't do anything with bats, and now I'm kind of regretful. I mean,
Yeah.
and I watched your videos on building bat houses, and now I'm thinking that I'm gonna build some bat houses for my woods.
So when I built my bat houses for my Girl Scout project, it was in the 90s, the mid 90s. And, back then we didn't really have the internet as much as we do now. There wasn't as much research on the effectiveness of bat houses to actually help bats. And so, yeah, looking at the pictures, oh my gosh, the bat houses that I built were not the best. They're not kind of up to the standards that we would want to see nowadays. But, it was that
So
first.
if the bat house inspector came by, they would not bats
Pretty
bat
much.
house
Yeah, I mean, looking at the
inspector.
pictures, I cringed and me holding my little bat house, and I'm just like, oh god, those are not the best.
I bet the bats liked them.
Well,
though.
actually,
I
funny
bet-
story. Not funny at the time, but I went back to check my bat houses in the park where I had put them up in Ohio. Like a month after I put them up, and I was so excited. 12-year-old me to go check and see if any bats were living in there. And we got to the park and we got up to the places where they were installed, and I saw all these pieces of wood on the ground. Somebody had come by and vandalized my bat house. It was an anterior.
Oh,
house.
no.
Yeah, who knows who, but you can imagine 12-year-old me was pretty
Yeah.
devastated.
Heartbroken.
Yeah, but I learned, and that didn't stop me. I build bat houses now with Girl Scout troops in schools and trying to help them make them better than the ones that I built, and hopefully not get torn down.
Well, I watched some of the videos that were on your links in your website and stuff, and you go through how to make them, and you have like a cutout of what the bat house,
Yes.
the inside of the bat house looks. Okay, but you're also it's not that big, and I think you said there's
Yeah.
300 to 500 bats that can live in this bat house.
Yeah, depending on the size. Yeah, they can.
It's
So
I'm thinking a clown car
Yeah.
is
I mean, it's some species, 100 bats per square foot can squeeze into a square foot of wall. I mean, that's not all bats, but oh yeah, they can fit in really tight spaces. And they actually like that. They're very social. They like to be in colonies with their, colony mates, their roost mates. So yeah, they can fit a lot in those bat houses.
Okay. I also want to ask, so you said that you did field research when you were in undergrad.
Yep.
What do you do when you're researching bats?
Yeah, so that's the cool thing about bats. There's so much you can study because bats are this kind of really hard thing to study. Mostly fly around at night. They have acoustic echolocation calls that are above our frequency of hearing. So for the most part, so it's hard to hear them. It's hard to see them because they're out at night. They fly really far distances. So it's just really hard to study them. And so because of that, the field of bat biology as a field really is, decades old, not hundreds of years old like some other studies, other fields. And so that makes it exciting. There's lots of questions that you can answer. And so for what I was doing, we were down in Texas. I was working with a PhD student who was working in Texas pecan orchards. She was studying the pest control services of these bats in pecan orchards. So are these bats eating the pecan nut case bearer moth? It's one of the primary pests of pecans. So what we were doing is we would catch the bats. We use things called mist nets. They look like these gigantic hair nets, those black little hair nets that are 40 feet long. And the bats fly into them at night. It's hard to see them, even though bats are not blind. They all can see. But they're flying so fast, they don't see these nets and they get tangled. So we catch them And then we, record measurements like weight, what species they are, how healthy they are. And then in our case, we were tracking these bats. So we were attaching gluing, like with little surgical glue, so not hurting the bats, little radio transmitters to the back of the bat. And then we'd release the bat and it would go fly around and do its thing. And we would then use these giant antennas and run around and drive around the fields and the roads, trying to find where these bats are going. And so that we were tracking them was a big part of what we were doing. And the work that I do with Bat Conservation International now, I work with pollinating bats that feed on the nectar of agave plants, these big blooming agaves. And so I used, for my PhD work, I used infrared cameras to monitor and watch these bats feeding from agave flowers. So I got to use, the really cool infrared technology to see these bats at night when it's pitch black. And I worked in Australia for a year, again, worked with some really cool technology, thermal imaging cameras. So, like in the movies with the heat maps of, things, we got to use those to count bats emerging from a cave. And we were trying to count about 40,000 bats with this.
Oh my gosh.
So not by hand. We had some cool automated technology to help us, but got to do that. And then a more recent thing that I'm working with is eDNA, or environmental DNA. We are tracking the pollinating bats that I work with. We're finding where they're migrating through by using eDNA. So we're sampling blooming agave plants and people's hummingbird feeders in the Southwest to pick up their spit, the spit that they leave behind on these plants and these hummingbird feeders. And then we can swab that, send it off to a lab, and they can tell us from the DNA in that spit what species of nectar-feeding bat was there. So it's, really cool, kind of cool technology that we can use nowadays.
So tell us more about the hummingbird feeder and the bats.
Yeah, so in the Southwest, like Arizona, very southern Arizona and New Mexico, for sure we know that these bats are coming to people's hummingbird feeders at night. Hummingbird feeders, it's sugar water, right? It's just pure sugar.
Right.
And that's what the bats are eating. They need a lot of the sugars. I will say it's not the best food source. It's not the most nutritionally rich food source. But
I think I've heard about that for humans too.
Yeah, sugar, right? I hate to admit it, I love sugar. So, but they like, oh heck, it's a free food source. So they go to people's porches at night, and they're coming and they're feeding from the feeders and getting that nectar or that sweet sugar water.
So
Cool.
you found that they were pollinating there as well. Was that a pretty successful study where you had some good data science behind that study?
So we worked out a lab at Northern Arizona University to develop basically the method to be able to identify which species are there from the spit, from the DNA left behind. And so, we can get down to species level, which is really important because there is one of the 3 nectar-feeding bat species that migrates into the U.S. is an endangered bat. It's an endangered species. And unfortunately, with traditional, survey methods like acoustic calls that are non-invasive, we cannot distinguish that endangered bat from another related species. You have to, before eDNA, we had to catch the bats in hand and take measurements. And from those measurements of the bat, we could then say it's this endangered bat or it's the other species. And then you can imagine, first of all, catching bats is hard. It's hard to catch these bats. It's logistically difficult. And then also, it's pretty invasive, right? We're interrupting their nightly foraging. We're putting them under stress. When you handle them, we're not hurting them, but, they get stressed. And so we want to minimize that as much as possible. And that's where the eDNA comes in, is we don't have to interact with the bats at all. We can just go during the daytime to a blooming agave or a hummingbird feeder and swab it, and then ship that off to the lab, and they'll tell us it was which species. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking when you were talking about this too, that is a lot of your work done at night, but now is this changing that?
Yeah, it kind of is. So a lot of bat work traditionally is at night, right? That's when they're out. So Yes, I'm a night owl by nature, a nocturnal.
Oh, well,
So it works.
that's good.
It works
That
out
works
well.
out well
I
for
think
you.
that's partly why like a bat career has worked so well for me because I love the night. So yeah, so traditionally, yeah, you're out at night a lot. You're doing a lot of that nocturnal work. But yeah, with things like eDNA or acoustics, even when we just deploy the detectors and then you go back and collect the data later. You don't have to be out there. Some of that technology is allowing us to be less nocturnal.
It makes for a good Halloween story.
It does. I feel really bad. Like I know quite a few of my colleagues or bat folks that I know are actually morning people. They're like very early morning folks. And so I've always wondered how they deal with the whole nighttime aspect, but they make it work.
Yeah, I am not a night person, well, except for the fact that I don't sleep very well. So I guess this might give me something to do when I'm not sleeping.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so one of the things I like to talk about on here is like, what is a typical day in your job?
Yeah.
Which I'm guessing there's probably no typical anything, I'm guessing, but I'd like, what do you do like day to day as a bat conservationist?
Yeah. So me personally, so I will say there is lots of kind of avenues to be involved in bat conservation, and it kind of is like a fit your need type thing. So, when I was first starting out, in my PhD and first when I joined BCI, my day-to-day was much more field work and going out and working, outside with bats, doing that nighttime research and kind of, that work, and then the data analysis and the writing of the papers and of the like management plans for how we can protect bats from that research. But the more that I've kind of progressed in my career, I'm more focused now on development of conservation programs and initiatives. So I'm less in the field doing the actual field work or data collection. I'm more on the kind of partnership development. How do we find partners and integrate with partners, local partners, to do the work we want to do? How I'm strategic planning, like what is the need for conservation for this species or this species, and really planning that conservation work and then doing some of it in the field, but much more of that planning at this point.
Well, okay, so that's, I think, is kind of like something that I think is interesting in a lot of, I'm just gonna say like careers in general. I think it would like STEM or whatever. Like as you progress through your career, you go from like the stuff that is probably like what got you excited and into it and interested, and you're in the field and doing more hands-on stuff. And then, gradually like move into management or, whatever it is, or strategy or like big picture. Do you like that, or do you miss the hands-on stuff? Like, where's your sweet spot in your work?
So I love what I do. I love to work with people to do the conservation work. For me, it's just as exciting as getting to go out and work with the bats. And so for me, this is kind of an ideal spot because I'm still intimately connected to the bats and to the conservation challenge. Like I spent, 6+ years studying these bats, the endangered Mexican long-nosed bat, the agaves, working with rural communities in Mexico and local partners. So I'm still very much connected and tied to that, but I then get to use the people skills, right? And connecting and getting folks excited and getting people involved. And for me, that's where the excitement lies, is getting folks excited about bat conservation.
Okay, so who are like your strategic partners, and like what is that process of like finding those people? How do you go about that part of your job?
Yeah, so for our Agave Restoration Initiative here at BCI, we have over 100 partners who we have worked with and are working with to restore this binational migratory corridor for these bats. So you can imagine that takes a lot of people, a lot of groups on board. It's not just BCI going out and planting agaves, it's way beyond that. And so our partners include, all the way from seed collection. So we work with local native plant nurseries in the US. We work with community nurseries in Mexico to collect native agave seeds from, healthy agave stands, and then grow those little seedlings in the nurseries for 2 to 3 years until they're big enough to plant out on the landscape. And then when we're planting, we're working with partners like private landowners in the US, like ranchers, for example. We work with ejido communities in Mexico, government agencies, Forest Service, BLM here in the US, and CONAMP in Mexico to get these agaves planted on the ground. And of course, we work with a very strong network of local conservation NGOs, other conservation organizations like BCI, who are doing this work. And so it's, when we're starting, it's like finding the folks who are already doing great work locally and trying to integrate agave restoration into that work. So it's not like you're just coming in cold and saying, let's plant agaves. That's not kind of our model. Our model is to really integrate it with the local work that's happening to advance their goals and their work, as well as BCI's work.
So bats are migratory?
So great question. So some bats are migratory. Some bats hibernate, and they stay in the northern regions, but some do migrate. So the bats that I'm working with, there are 3 species of pollinating nectar-feeding bats that migrate annually between central and southern Mexico. They migrate northward in the spring, and then they stay up in the southwest US, so Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas in the summer and the fall. And then in the fall, they migrate back south down to central Mexico. And so, they're undergoing this over 700-mile migration every year. It's like the hummingbirds and the monarchs. It's that same thing where they have this ingrained migration. And it's the crazy part about this migration is that it is primarily pregnant females that undergo this migration while they're pregnant. So it's a crazy thing. Like, why are these females migrating so far to give birth up north and then migrating back south with their baby, in fall? It's what they do.
Okay, so they go north to like the hottest part of the US in the summertime. Is that?
Yeah, pretty much. Yep, there.
Yeah. When I was pregnant during the summertime, I was trying to get as far away from the heat as possible.
Yes. Yeah,
they're going towards the heat.
They're going towards the heat. One thing that does help is they are out at night, so that helps a bit with the heat. But it's this crazy thing where they're following this blooming trajectory of the food plants. So the agave plants, and in some areas, columnar cacti, like saguaro cacti, also feed these bats. And those agaves and those cacti are blooming at certain times of year in different parts. So the bats kind of have to follow that blooming.
They're following like their food line
to feed themselves.
Interesting.
And then, they raise their babies up in northern Mexico and in the southwest US, and then all migrate back together in the fall.
All right. So the only thing that I could maybe like relate this to, so Linda and I both live in Minnesota. We have loons. Loons migrate from Florida in the wintertime to up here in the summertime. They mate for life. They have their babies. They're very family oriented when they're here. Do the babies go back with the moms? Do the babies, like, how does that work? What is their family life like?
It's a great question. So one of the really cool and crazy things about bats in general is that most bat moms only have one baby per year. So they are not giving birth to litters. They're not, they're not closely related to rodents. They're very kind of distant. They don't give birth to like 10 babies at a time, and they only give birth once a year. And so that makes them really special for a mammal of that size. They are mammals. They do also feed their babies milk, like we do. So the mothers, nurture their one little baby with that milk until the baby is old enough to fly and find food on its own. And bats, like some bat species, the baby goes out with the mom and her little group to go forage at night. The mom kind of shows them the ropes, like, here's where good food is. Here's a good agave plant. And then those babies kind of remember that over the years. And and then they all migrate back south together in the fall.
So before they can fly, before the babies can fly, are they like attached to the mom when the mom is flying? Do they stay in the cave?
Yeah.
What is the baby doing?
Good question. So the bat moms can actually fly with their baby until the baby is about half of the mom's body weight, which is crazy. Imagine flying around with a, half your body weight thing.
Holding up aquarium with like legs.
Yeah,
honestly.
exactly. So no, the bat moms, I like to think of them as super moms because they really are super powered. They can do all these crazy cool things. But, carrying that big baby around is a lot of work. And so for the most part, they will leave the babies in the cave or in the tree roost or wherever they're roosting while the mom goes out and forages. And they'll leave them in these little kind of nursery groups in the cave. So all the little babies are together in this little group hanging on the wall. And the bat moms can actually tell and find her own baby. Even when there's millions of these little babies in the cave, they can find their own baby from scent, from smell, from location where she left it. So they're very good at remembering, this is my baby and I'm going to take care of it.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Okay. What's Dad Bat doing at this time?
So, for the most part. So for the Mexican long-nosed bat, for example, they don't migrate for the most part. They stick around in southern and central Mexico during
They're hanging out at the bar with the other
we
dad
actually call them bachelor colonies because they will stick around with their other male friends while the females are migrating, pregnant. It's crazy. But yeah, many bat species,
of course,
the males, they come together, the males and females, to mate. And that's pretty much it. Part ways.
One night stand.
I know, it really, for the most part, yeah. Yeah, that's why the bat moms are super moms. Yeah.
Wow, that is amazing. Okay, so speaking of moms, I know like when I was reading about you, you said so like Girl Scouts and your mom were like two of your biggest influences. So tell me about like your mom being an influence and how she influenced you into what you went into studying, what you do.
Yeah, so my mom was my Girl Scout troop leader all the way from when I started in Daisies all the way through high school. I stuck around. I know it was one of those things growing up where it wasn't cool to be a Girl Scout starting in like middle school, but I thought it was cool. And so I continued through high school. And my mom, was my troop leader that whole time. And she really encouraged me to kind of stick my neck out in certain situations when I wasn't necessarily super comfortable with something. She would encourage me to try. Like we had a cadet senior association back then. When I joined that, I went to my first CSA meeting in my council. And that meeting happened to be the election day for the officers for the next year for the organization. And nobody was running for secretary. And I was like, I loved taking notes. And my mom was like, you should stand up and say you want to run for secretary. And I was like, are you kidding? This is my first meeting. Like, I don't know any of these girls. But I did. I put my hand up and I ran. I gave my little speech. I made a little speech in like a minute and read it. And of course, I got it because I was the only one running. And and then I progressed on to become co-president and then president, the older I got. So just her encouraging me to take those risks, I think has carried into my adult life, into my career. You might not think you're the best fit for something. You might be nervous about something, but you can't get things if you don't try. So that's kind of my motto is try.
Yeah. What do your parents do? Like what was their job?
So my mom's they're retired now, but she was a physical therapist and my dad was a mechanic. So a car mechanic. Well, my dad led some of our workshops for our troop. He did a car mechanic badge workshop with us.
Oh,
and
yay.
Helped me,
that makes me so happy.
Yeah, because helped me build my bat houses. I was never I still am not the mechanical, know how to put things together type. I am not. That's not my
I'm an electrical engineer. If I was mechanical, there's no way I could be mechanical.
Exactly. I'm okay. So that was always made me nervous. So my dad helped me a lot with that. Yeah. I like taking things apart. So, and then, my mom, again, just really pushing my interest in nature and my interest in STEM. We would go camping. We, took family trips to the beach just sometimes and got to dig in the dirt and help my grandma garden growing up. So just those experiences of cultivating that interest in nature and animals from a very early age.
What is the most surprising thing to you, both about bats when you learned about them, and also about just your job? What things have surprised you?
So I think one thing that I've been really excited about with over my 15-ish years of working in bat conservation is the shift in people's perceptions and attitudes towards bats. That has been something that has been pleasantly surprising in that, when I first started out, People thought I was crazy. Like my own family, like, oh, you're studying bats. Like that's a little weird, isn't it? And like they're creepy, and they still think that kind of. But there's that more broader public recognition of the importance of bats to our ecosystems, to our economies, to maintaining, healthy economies and ecosystems, really. And just how cool bats are. And I think that's been something very pleasantly surprising, is that even if you don't necessarily think bats are cute and cuddly and cool, a lot of people are recognizing their importance more and more, which is awesome.
So bats are protected in most states,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I was doing a little bit of research in Minnesota because my brother had bats in his house just recently. And I believe they're protected in Minnesota. And, you need to probably get professional help to try to get them out. Well, sometimes it's not really easy to do when it's in the middle of the night. You have this bat in your house, but what would, talk a little bit about protection. And then I'm also really curious, and maybe our listeners are too, about if you do get a bat in your house, what do you do?
Yeah. So 2 great questions. So yes, with the protected status, there's different status levels of protection, right? Endangered for the US, for states, internationally. And in general, bats in the US are protected. The issue with that is, or the kind of challenge is that it's hard to enforce, right? So if you're an everyday homeowner and you have bats in your house, you go to a website, pest control, people will Google pest control or pest removal. And all these companies come up that are saying, oh, we can get rid of your bats. They're not necessarily certified in any way to do it legally and properly and humanely. And so that happens quite a lot, is you'll get these people who aren't doing it the best way and then can harm the bats. And that's what happens, I think, is people just go to Google and the first people that come up are not necessarily doing it the right way. And there's no enforcement. There's nobody out. There's no bat police, citing you. It doesn't really happen. So
There's no Batman. There's no Batman.
I wish
that's,
there
like, coming
was.
to,
I
like,
wish
take
there
care of
was.
that.
But I mean, I get it because it's so easy with the internet nowadays to just Google and just find someone that's easy and cheap enough for you to afford, and like totally get that. So the thing, if you do have bats in your house, try to go to a website or a company or an organization like Bat Conservation International who actually works with bats. And there's like BCI, we have tips on our website on how to exclude bats from your house humanely, and when to do it, how to do it with like one-way exclusion so the bats can get out in the evening but they can't get back in, so you're not trapping bats inside your house and killing them. So yeah, go find, BCI has tips, or your local wildlife department will have likely has information on that. Also, wildlife rehabbers or rehabilitation groups often have information about bats. So yeah, look for those sources instead of just what comes up first on Google.
I found a source in Minnesota that manages bats, and they work on donations, and they are about protecting bats. And I thought it was interesting that one of the ways to get rid of them was to lie still and open a window and shut all the lights off.
Oh yeah. So so this is the case. If you have a bat, one single bat flying around in your house, like they found a crack somewhere and got into your room. But yes, if you, like they said, open all the windows and the doors, turn your lights off inside and turn the lights on outside so that they can see, oh, there's the lights, like go to the light, That's what they'll try to do, is they'll try to escape. So
I thought that was great advice. I thought,
don't panic. That's step 1. Don't panic. Don't get the broom and whack him down, please. I mean, I get it. It's not, but that's a great way to do it.
So I rafted the Grand Canyon in end of May, 14 days, amazing experience. We had 4 bat encounters of like guides and assistants, and they all had to be evacuated when they had their bat encounter. And it wasn't necessarily a bite. It was like if they got like hit or touched, and it wasn't any guests. Also, we had, and so this is like something else I want to ask about, but we also had white rafts, and the guides and assistants all sleep on the rafts that are at the river. I mean, there were bats flying around us, like on the ground too, like a lot. This is like all 14 days. Like it wasn't just like one area. It was like the entire trip. Is that normal? Like,
Yes.
because I had like not talked to anybody else. Like, we did not talk about bats before we started our trip. And it was like first night, there was an assistant who had a bat encounter. So, like, second day, we're talking about evacuation all the way to like the very end of the trip.
Oh my gosh.
I've never thought so much about bats in my life. And we're sleeping like out in the open
Yeah.
because like we don't want to be intense. It's hot.
Mhm.
I'm just like so curious about that. And
Yep.
bats and rabies, like, is that a thing? Is there overreaction going on here? Like, I'm just super curious because
Yeah.
I never thought about, we have bats at home.
Mhm.
I would have like, if a bat like brushed by me, I don't think I'd be going to the doctor to get like my rabies shots, but
Yeah.
that's basically what they're doing. And I realized like, well, anyway, I'll let you answer.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I'm just so
I bet-
curious.
I guess so.
I bet you wish you learned about that migration path before, huh, Kathy?
Yeah, really, I know. Well, yeah, so that's really funny that you mentioned that the rafts and like the water. So those bats were probably trying to drink, two things: drink water, because bats do actually drink. They skim over the surfaces of water bodies like streams or ponds to get water with their mouth because they're thirsty. So they were either trying to do that or they were hunting insects like mosquitoes,
Mhm.
the
Yep, we thought about
midges,
that.
the flies that are near water often. The bats are trying to eat those. So they're like darting around trying to chase those insects.
Are they
Potentially.
attracted to white things? Because we had a
Yeah.
conversation about that too, that the white rafts
Mhm.
might have been drawing them in. And someone talked about like the white, like Batman light of that, like that would actually attract bats. Is that true?
Yes, it could be that white kind of smooth surface of the raft looks like water, or it kind of reflects like water, especially in moonlight and things. So potentially they maybe were trying to get water and they're like, oh wait, this is not water. And then it's too late and they whack into it. So that's potentially, and then with the light, if you did have lights on, think about what congregates often around lights at night. Insects. So the bugs. So the bats are
So it's not
eating.
necessarily the white light, it's the insects that are drawn.
Exactly.
Okay,
So that's
okay.
probably what was happening. So yeah, that they're not out trying to attack you. They're just having these little encounters.
Yep.
And then in terms of rabies is a very serious disease. That it's fatal if not caught and not treated. And so that's why probably those precautions were taken, because it is so serious. But less than 0.5% of bats in the normal bats in the wild are estimated to have rabies, to actually be carrying it. So if the bats are just flying around doing their normal activities, they're most likely not sick. They're just going about their feeding and they're drinking water. Very unlikely that they had rabies. And second of all, really, to get rabies, it's through the saliva. You really need to be bit. And so, but that being said, people, when they're quote unquote exposed to a bat, it's always good to be on the safe side, right? You don't want to risk anything. So that's why people do the post quote unquote exposure shots and things. But less than 0.5% of bats out there are likely to carry rabies. And it's actually more common to come across a rabid skunk or a rabid fox than it is a rabid bat. So put that in perspective.
Okay, so if someone were to like have a bat that brushes by them, they don't need to go get rabies shots?
No. I mean, again, unless they're being bit, then yes, of course.
But so what like we were told is like you wouldn't know because the bat teeth are so small, you wouldn't know if you're being
and that's
bit. It's
potentially
kind of
that's why people, if they wake up and they're like, oh my God, there's a bat in my room and I was sleeping, that's why they then do go to the hospital, just to be on the safe side, right? You don't want to play with that, but it's so unlikely. And it's like I said, if the bats are flying around doing their normal activities, they're probably not sick. A rabid bat is like a rabid raccoon. It shows symptoms. It's going to be on the ground. Usually it's going to be like acting weird, not flying right. And that's when you want to avoid, like, any animal that looks sick. You don't want to get near.
So we saw this bat that was like crawling out of a creek at 10:30 in the morning, like walking on its wings.
Yeah.
I don't even know like what you would call it.
Yep.
There's obviously something wrong with it. What should we have done in that case?
So I guess two things. One is that some bats, like red bats, for example, in the US, can actually be flying around in the evening, in the morning, during the day. I've seen a red bat at around 10 in the morning flying around as hunting. For some reason, some of those species can actually do that and they're not sick. It's just part of their normal behavior. So it might not have been sick.
It was walking out of a creek,
yeah,
though,
so
which seems
if it
weird.
was walking out of a creek, what probably happened is it might have been trying to drink, and they have to skim, get down all the way to that water surface and skim the water. And it might have just overshot. It might have just not judged the
Crashed?
distance right and crashed, and then be like,
Crashed?
and they can swim. So like they're trying to get to the shore, and then it got to the shore. And so that's probably like, oh gosh, just trying to get out, and that likely.
So should we have left it? I did not do anything. It was our guide and 2 people and 2 guests. And so we were talking about this, and he went back, and I believe that he killed it with a rock.
Yeah, I mean, in that case, if you're there, I get that. But
and then the blood squirted up and hit him in the face, and that was one of the bat encounters.
Well, see,
and so then he had to get evacuated, but then you're like saliva, so I'm like, well, maybe the blood would have been fine.
Yeah, it's unlikely, but again, you don't want to play around with it. And so this is one of the reasons why we do suggest not like handling bats, of course, right? If you're not a trained bat biologist, and if you are interacting with a bat in any way, using really thick gloves, not handling them themselves, trying to get them in like a box with a stick so you're not like coming into contact. Again, just like, kind of any wild animal, you don't want to have contact.
So should we have left it? Because I think like the idea was like we wanted it to like not like to be put out of its misery if it was sick. I think that was the idea.
Yeah.
But should we just have left it? Or when I say we, it wasn't me, but should they have left it?
I'm an advocate for trying to do that unless it's severely suffering or something, but probably, letting nature take its course. And it might have been fine and, gotten to a tree. They'll often like climb onto if they're on the ground, they'll find a tree or a rock wall, climb up that and rest while they get dry from the water or whatever and recuperate. And then they'll fly off. So yeah, I guess if it's not posing a threat, just leave nature, I guess.
Okay. All right.
Good questions.
Good to know. A little late, just a little after the fact. So
it's always, you can always learn,
Okay. So a couple things. We're going to try to like go through these like a little bit faster because you have places to go. All right. So we have a question from Jenna, and this is like an advice section. So we call it like Ask the Not Expert. So we're not trying to be experts. We're just trying to provide our opinion. So this one I thought seemed like one that seemed like a good thought. I'm starting my junior year of college and am realizing I want to change my major. Is that a bad idea this late into college?
No, I mean, I'm an advocate for there's no right perfect time for anything. You make the most of it, right? And so like obviously there's like logistical constraints you have to think about, right? If you're able to shift and stay a year or 2 more in addition, those logistical constraints. But I'm an advocate for not getting stuck in something you don't really like, especially at that early stage. Like, being far along in your college career might seem like you're far along, but you really have a lot of good time to figure things out. So
very early on in life.
Yes, exactly. So. I know it always seems like, I remember, gosh, in college, I thought like, I got to figure things out now. And I think college is a great time to explore, and it's a great time to really pursue those interests that you have. So I don't think it's too late. Of course, talk to your support network, your advisors, see what they think, but I think it's possible.
Whoever's paying the bill.
Yeah, of course, logistical constraints always a factor, but I would definitely say explore it and don't let it be like, no, you can't do it.
Well, and one of the things that I think is crazy is that, we expect like our 17 and 18-year-olds to figure out like, what are you to do for the rest of your life? And I think that's like the stupidest question to ask. Because like you could have 4, 5, 10 different careers throughout your life. Like, I think it's more of like figuring out the skill sets versus like, what exactly am I going to do? Especially when you're 17 or 18. I think it's not to say that there's not some people that have it figured out, but most of us don't. Some of us are still figuring it out.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, no, that's with college, there's always that thing of some people have it like they laser focused, right? Like, I was pretty like I wanted to work with wildlife, with nature, or conservation, and then I discovered bats. So I was pretty laser focused early on, but a lot of my friends weren't, and they learned, they developed their skills and their interests in college, and then went on in different varying careers and pursued what fit them. Yeah.
Okay. 2 other like quick questions for you. I'm not going to do rapid fire because there's 2 things that I didn't ask you about that I want to go back to. So you're an if-then ambassador, which I think is amazing. Can you briefly tell us what that is for people who don't know?
Yeah, so the If Then Initiative, it's an initiative to basically bring to light women in STEM fields who are working in varied STEM careers and showcase the work that they're doing to show that, girls and anyone can have these really cool careers. And so as part of the If Then Initiative, we were over 100 of us were selected as ambassadors from conservation fields, from engineering, mathematics, like just the range of STEM fields, to serve as these role models to showcase our careers and showcase our journeys in our careers, to really be those role models for girls and other kids to pursue. So it's been a fantastic opportunity.
Is it something that you applied for? Is it something that people nominated for? You applied for
Yeah,
it?
gosh, it was 2019, I believe. So quite a few years ago now that we applied. And they had a big, rigorous selection process and selected a little over 100 ambassadors. And then over the past, few years, we've had engagement opportunities with the media. There's a whole profile, a whole website, isthen.org, where you can go and see the profiles of all these women STEM ambassadors. There's teacher resources if you're a K through 12 teacher or a college professor, resources for showcasing these careers and these women in your curricula. So it's a great resource and a great initiative.
Yeah, and I'll add, like, it's short for if you can see it, then you can be it, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I'll put links to this in like the episode notes and stuff too. But okay, one more thing. You are a National Geographic Explorer. I saw that on your LinkedIn profile. I feel like that would be like in my head, like a dream that I would have. What is that?
Yeah.
And what does that mean for you?
Yeah. So gosh, back when I was doing my PhD work, so quite a few years ago now, I had to support my research through grants. So I was fundraising, I was writing grant applications all the time to support my research. And one of those was a grant from National Geographic for early career people like me. And so I applied for this grant to support my PhD work, and I got it. And so as part of that funding, it wasn't just funding, you became part of the Explorer family. And I had the opportunity in 2019 to actually take the stage at the National Geographic headquarters in DC and give a lightning talk about my PhD research with these bats. So I got to get up in front of hundreds of people and give a 60-second lightning talk about all the work that I was doing and these cool bats.
Seconds.
So yeah, it was, being part of that Explorer community opens you up to collaboration, to, working with other great explorers, and really kind of gives that visibility to your work of, this is National Geographic believes in me and believes in my work. So it's been a great opportunity.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so cool. Yep. Okay. I feel like I could talk to you for like 3 hours, but I know you've got like places to go. So I so appreciate having you on here. Also, we are going to put this out. We're hoping to do around Halloween. And I know you said like the last week of October is Bat Week.
Yes. Yep.
So you want to talk about Bat Week like super, super quick?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Bat Week is a whole week leading up to Halloween where there are events, there are educational activities and resources kind of all around the world happening about bats. So if you go to batweek.org, they have lots of educational resources and events and things posted about bats where you can learn. And then, BCI, Bat Conservation International, we have our website as well that has lots of great resources and fun like arts and crafts and bat masks that you can make with kids. So if you go to batcon.org, we have a lot of great resources as well.
Well, I am so happy that I've gotten the chance to talk with you and learn more about what you do. Maybe we could have you on for like a follow-up.
I would love to.
Like I swear there's still like so many more things I want to ask.
Well, like I said, I could talk about bats all day. So yes, we should definitely.
You probably do.
I do. Yep. But yes.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah,
really just delighted to have you on here.
Thank you so much.
And
thank
you.
Yeah,
thank
everyone
you,
get ready
Kristen.
for Bat Week.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Awesome.
I'm excited. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
And everyone stay tuned for mine and Linda's recap. Thanks, Kristen.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. So, Kristen, what'd you think of her?
Oh my gosh, amazing. Amazing. Okay, I'll say this at first. We got so into the geeky bat stuff that I'm trying to remember. I'm even looking at my notes. What I thought about her is just her drive from a young age, being her drive in Girl Scouts and quite a go-getter from a young age. And she just seemed to accelerate that. And now she's putting that energy into the bats, which is so interesting. She's literally bat crazy.
The only time you could use that without being offensive, right?
Exactly. And I should say crazy about bats so everybody knows. But
Well,
yeah, it
and
was
she's
really fun.
so peppy and so energetic and lively. She
Yeah.
seems very much like an extrovert. Like that was one of the things I didn't get to ask her about, like if she's always been that way or if she
Oh, yeah.
has to work. I feel like it's just her personality.
Yeah, I think so too. From a young age.
Yeah. Yeah. She
Yeah.
just.
And I did look up the Girl Scout patch.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Are you going to
There's
get one? Can you
several.
order one?
There's several. Well, now I have to pick which one. There's one for Minnesota, I think.
Oh,
It
really?
Google alluded to one in Minnesota, but I don't know if that was just a search engine or not. I have to find that. There's also one for building bat houses. And then there was one from Long Island. So yeah, there's several
Yeah.
bat patches.
I
I think they should have patches for adults.
they should.
Can I be an adult Girl Scout?
You know, I think that you can, because actually the woman who introduced me to Kristen is Erin Twomley, who is, I believe she's a lifetime Girl Scout. And actually she's from Brainerd. She lives overseas now, but she does a lot of writing for like Department of Energy and like children's book writing about energy. She's super interesting. And I believe that she's a Girl Scout for life. So I think that you can be.
Didn't Kristen say she was too?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe
So.
you could be. I don't know how you become a Girl Scout for life.
I
But-
should know this.
Yeah.
We were both leaders. We should know this, but might have to look that up too.
Yeah. You know, and now I'm feeling like I could have done more as a leader because I didn't even think about, did we do any STEM things? Trying to think if we did STEM things. I know we stayed overnight at, I don't want to say SeaWorld, but Sea Life in Mall of America. We did that one night.
Yeah.
I guess that would be kind of STEMmy. There's fish.
Yeah. I did a STEM thing.
What did you do?
What was this? The 90s, right? So I did a training class on Windows, Microsoft Windows.
Oh,
The girls, so it was just like little keyboarding and little mouse pointing and getting around. And it was a little computer class. I borrowed the East Central Energy Training Lab, which they donated to the Girl Scouts, and had them in there and all lined up on the computers. And they were, I don't know, were they 10 or 11, and taught them some tips and tricks about computing. So that
and
was
that
my
was probably
STEM
before
thing.
people like
did
really
for
had
them.
computers at their homes all regularly.
Yeah, not a lot of them did.
Yeah.
And I think there had to be a patch for it because otherwise I wouldn't have done it. There was some kind of computer learning patch.
If not a patch, we're not doing it.
That's it. We're
I'm out.
got to be a patch. Well, I think that's a requirement, isn't it? In order to be under the Girl
Probably.
Scouts, that you have to find the patch. You have to do work towards
Towards the
Um,
patches.
the patches.
I don't know.
think.
It's been
Yeah.
so long since I've been involved in it, but it is a really good organization. And
Yeah, it is.
I hadn't really thought about it as being a way to bring STEM to girls. And I think that's a great place to do it for sure.
Yeah, it really is.
So yeah. Yeah, so I kind of want to build a bat house this winter. I think I'm gonna try and figure that out because I think they're neat. Like I like bats. Like I'm all for bats being around my house and eating my mosquitoes. That seems like a great
Yeah.
idea. So I think it'd be
Yeah.
kind of cool.
And now we have resources that if we get them inside our houses, we know where to go.
We
Now
can
we've-
just lay still and open our windows and turn off the inside lights and turn on the outside lights. Have them fly past us. Well, actually,
Well,
one of the houses that Joe and I were looking at, because we're trying to figure out like where we're going to move when we retire, and it said that it had bats in it. So now I guess if we were to decide to buy that house, Joe, we're just going to lay still and
no one knows.
let the bats fly over our head.
I almost
the window.
forgot about that. That is hilarious. I don't think I'd be comfortable. Doing that. I mean, I'd want the bats to go outside, obviously, but I think I would leave the house and leave the windows open. I don't want to lay still anyway.
How do you know if they leave though, if you're not there? And how do you know how many there are?
Well, you don't know anyway, right?
No, I don't know. I
Mm.
have no idea. I don't know.
I
But I
don't
do
either.
think like the stuff we talked about though, with like finding a reputable bat person so that you don't have somebody that is like harming the bats. Like I
Mhm.
do have a lot more appreciation for bats
I do too.
after talking with her. So I feel like she could have like a channel like Bill Nye the Science Guy. I feel like she has such a personality that she could do something like that.
Oh, she could. She's so energetic. Another thing, we got talking about the bats, and then we started talking about the agave and how important that was and the risk of that plant not being there for the bats. And then if it's not for the bats, then the bats aren't there for the plant.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was so interesting to me. And I don't think I'll look at a bottle of tequila the same way ever again.
Well, my sister lives in San Diego and they have like huge agave plants. And they actually had one, when did I say out? I think I was out there in June, and they had one that they will, I don't know if all agave plants do this. I might have to like look this up and put it into the episode notes, but they call it, I think, like a century shoot. So it'll send out this like stem that flowers, but it went up, I want to say 50, 60 feet. So it'll like shoot it up and then the plant will die. And so like it was probably 40, 50 feet when I was there, and then it kept growing. Like my brother-in-law said, it grew probably 6 inches a day. Like it just grows like crazy fast. And I'll shoot this up and then it dies. And I
So-
actually knew this because we actually saw these when we were rafting the Grand Canyon. We saw them and we talked about them. And then I went to my sister's like a few weeks after that, or a couple weeks after that, and they had one that was like
So tell me more. This is the plant that does it itself. It shoots this up.
Yeah, and I don't think it's all
Out of the pipe.
agaves. I think there are just like certain agaves that are called, I want to say it's like, I think, well, at least when we were in the Grand Canyon, we called it, I think, like a century plant. But it'll like, it's like after like 30 or 40 years of it being alive, it does this one shoot. And then it flowers, the shoot flowers, and then it dies. But it was like as tall, this shoot was as tall as their palm trees. It was pretty crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was crazy. So anyway, Kristen was lovely.
She was fun.
And yeah, I almost feel like we need to have her back to talk more at some point, but we'll see. There's so many women out there to talk to.
There are.
They do such cool things. I'm like, I would have never thought about being a bat scientist. I
No,
mean,
I
I don't know
wouldn't.
that I would want to be a bat scientist, but like just to know that that's even something to consider is pretty cool.
It is.
So,
And I love your timing of offering this during Halloween, which also is Bat Week.
exactly. Yes, Bat Week.
And what a great episode to air during that time.
People can go out and build their bat houses so the bats can have nice places to live. And if you're in the Southwest, plant your agave plants and be kind to bats. They're super good for us. So, yeah, it was really good.
Here's another thing I thought. So when she first started talking about surveying these bats at night and all the time she spent at night and, looking at these bats, and I just picture her in a tent and just kind of sneaking around the woods looking for these plants with her camera. And that's what I pictured when we first talked to her. And it was a little more sophisticated than that. I mean, they had the cameras with the infrared, and I think it was infrared that she used with the cameras. And it was pretty cool how much they had captured during the night. I think she got a little more sleep than I thought she was.
Yeah. I mean, and she did say she was a night owl, so maybe it worked out well with her personality to have that for a job. It sounds like she does get more sleep now because she's more, sounds like she's more supervising and stuff, but
yeah, than in the field.
Yeah. I would not do well if I had to work in the middle of the night. My brain doesn't function super well.
I used to be a night owl. I've changed a little bit just because I get up so early now. I don't know if that's by design or if it's just age, or I don't know what it is. I'm not so much a night owl anymore. But the thing about that bat thing at night is what I wouldn't like is thousands and thousands of bats, and being amongst that many would kind of freak me out. I'm with you. I like bats. I've liked how many bugs they eat, but I don't know that I'd want to be around that many of them.
I wasn't a huge fan of them around my head when we were sleeping when we were in the Grand Canyon. I mean, and it varied like how many would be around. Like sometimes there wouldn't be any, but sometimes it would be a decent amount, and they might, be within like what might have felt like a foot of our head. It was probably closer to like 3 or 4 feet, but they did feel like they got kind of close sometimes.
Yeah.
But it was also like really interesting to like hear how like yes, you need to be cautious, but also it's such a small portion, such a small percentage that have rabies and I don't know that there's anything that anyone should have done differently in our situation, like, I mean, you are in a canyon, and I mean, rabies is so deadly that you don't really want to take a chance with it. I think that even like once you show symptoms, it's like a 99.5% chance of death or something crazy. So I don't know that it even matters if you're remote or not remote, because I don't think that if you start showing symptoms, I think it's too late.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't know. Anyway, it was interesting. Liked her a lot.
Yes.
I'd like to end. We didn't get to talk as much about like if then as I had hoped to, and we didn't get to talk as much about the National Geographic Explorer as much as I would have liked, because I think both of those things are pretty interesting.
Definitely gotta have her back.
Well, we could have her back. We could also like there's a ton of women on, not a ton, but there's many women that do like should. I'll look into some other women that are part of the If Then ambassadors. It's a pretty neat program.
Yeah.
Well, it was good to talk with you.
You too.
And we will talk soon.
Yes, we will.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast. It really helps others find these stories. And if you know a friend or colleague who would also like it, we'd love for you to share it with them. And be sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss future episodes. If you'd like to ask a question or are looking for some advice or to share your own story, you can email us or leave us a voicemail through our website at ordinarily-extraordinary.com. We may feature your question in a future episode. You can also find more about us on the website or subscribe to my writing on Substack at kathykale.substack.com. And now enjoy Kay Paulus's music to take us out. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Mama said you're so lucky, the world's evolved so far. You know my path was laid out for me, but I longed for something more. What are you gonna be, they asked me, teacher, nurse, or secretary. But you, my child, can do anything. You can become extraordinary. I know you'll set the world on fire. Keep chasing your dream. Use your gifts for good and stand on your own 2 feet. Set the world on fire. Have faith in yourself. Do your best, work hard, and you'll set the